Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Pre-Market Report for May 24th, 2016. I'm Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. Right now, what you see is basically price trading in a range. Obviously, that's the range we've been stuck in ever since price came below the 2031s. This is where we mentioned, especially in the trading room, don't get suckered below 2031. It's likely a buying opportunity back to value and perhaps back to the top of value. And so far, we're seeing that move. Yesterday obviously was a very tightly coiled day. What we've seen in overnight trading so far is prices reject lows below the previous session's low and is now rallying back toward the previous session's high. And the expectation would be, given this initial rejection, we're likely continuing higher. So pullbacks and are likely to be bought as this thing kind of slowly plods higher. Now we are heading, we got 4 days until the Memorial Day holiday next Monday. We saw yesterday, Monday, be a very choppy, quiet day in the markets, extraordinarily quiet, especially with volumes right now. In terms of ADR, we're also seeing very, very quiet action here. 47% of average range heading into RTH, 51%. Crude oil is at 39%. Those are holiday type of ranges or summertime type of ranges. So summer could be starting a little early here, so don't get caught in the chop. Instead, look for those high probability opportunities here to kind of follow. Now, taking a look at the intraday time frame, you can see here basically prices rallying so far this morning. Here's the previous session's low. If I pop it up right here, that's the previous session's RTH low, 2044s. You can see how price dropped below it, failed to make a new low, instead of double bottom, and the stops came out, and we've seen an aggressive rally. Typically speaking, when you see a rally of this nature, we could see some sort of pullback and then a continuation to the upside, or at least pullback and hold and then a continuation. So we'll see how this one plays out. Right now, we're testing prices above the previous session's high. After rejecting below the previous session's low, we could see a short-term pullback from these levels. But again, any pullback is likely to be seen as a buying opportunity, especially as deep as VWAP or even value here at 2049s. If we take a look at the NQ now, here's the NQ in a daily time frame, very tightly coiled price action here over the last month. You can see 43.32 quarter is composite, micro composite V pocket. Right now we're trading just above value here. I mentioned before that if prices are to break this range to the upside through 44s, you likely auction back to the top of this range here, 45.50. And perhaps begin a range from there. So right now there's a lot of coiled up price activity here. I say expansion could be seen soon, but right now we're in this upper area where, typically speaking, that's where bears have been defending. So we got to see if the stops come out soon. Looking at the intraday time frame, very similar to the ES here, price dropped below the previous session's low, failed to see any acceptance on the new low, and the stops came out to the upside. Again, anytime you see an aggressive rally like that in overnight trading, pullbacks could be buying opportunities for a continuation higher. We have a primary upside target on the day at 43.90 from this low. So if this low remains the low, at least for the morning, you could see a nice move into 43.90. If we relate that to the ES for a moment, the upside primary target on the day is 2060, and then you have 2061 as composite VPOC. So again, if a pullback occurs, and if this low remains intact on the day, your high probability targets are 2060 to 2061. All right, let's take a look at crude oil now. On a daily time frame, something we've been talking about is 47.61 being an 47.46 being an area to defend for bulls. Ever since price pushed through the top of that zone right here, I mentioned a pullback likely to be defended, and it was. However, we got a failed new high here. It was a lower high, so price came back and retested the zone. And so far, it's just sitting there. And that tells us that the market is doing as we expected, but at the same time, those bulls really aren't getting paid yet. So I'd be very, very suspect of these lows right now and the stops below them. If price cannot hold above 47.40, 47.20, you likely see a downside stops triggered, and at that point we could see a move back to these 44s. So that's something to keep in mind right now. This 47.46 is currently holding. Bulls are defending. but their stops are below and they're not getting paid yet. So they need to start getting paid in order for this thing to start getting pushed up. Otherwise, a failure to hold this zone could open up the stops back toward 44.72 and 43.5. Looking at the intraday time frame for crude oil here, you'll see that prices are trading right at the top of a key range here, or short-term range, at about 48.20s. That right now is at R3 on the PivotBoss bands. The previous sessions closed 48.12s. Again, we have a very tightly quoted range here, 39% of average daily range so far traded. I think this range is going to be very important because once we see a little bit of a breakout from this range, it could be significant. Modest higher lows here, a flat top, that ascending nature usually breaks to the upside. But again, you got to watch this 48.30, 48.35 above that zone. Could squeeze into 48.73 and perhaps as high as 49.10. Failure to get acceptance above this area rotates price back to 5-day VPOC and perhaps to the bottom of value. Let's take a look at the gold futures real quick here. This one has been bearish, obviously, on this session right here. That was a nice rejection tail. I talked about defending 82s and looking for a push downward, and we've seen that play out. But again, since then, this thing has been very, very volatile, very whipsaw. There's not really much to do right now other than we could see further weakness toward composite VPOC. Again, this one has been bullish overall. So when price gets a deep pullback, it's been defended time and time again. It just hasn't been easy. So I believe that price could be headed lower toward 1236.5 and perhaps as low as 1229. But should price get into the zone, we could see bulls bring it back up toward the 1260s. All right, that's it for now. Let's see how this thing plays out heading into the rest of the session. Good luck and trade well.